Hello, everyone. My name is Damon Rocha. I'm going to cover a walkthrough of my online project 2 for GPE104. So in this walkthrough, I'm going to cover components, health component, death slash load level, game mode, singleton pattern, live and score, functions and custom events, UI, start over, game over, and then go through a standalone build. So starting with components, this week I built out this health component. And this allows any actor to have a health component attached to it. So instead of having to rebuild this health functionality over and over again, I can just attach this to any actor and they will have health points, max health points, and then it'll instantiate and it'll call this on killed from the BPI interface. So that on killed is a promise from a promise to this change health component that the parent will implement this on killed function, and that'll be called um, once the health reaches a certain point. So in this case, it's when it's nearly zero or zero, since this is a float. And another component I built out is so we did this on player killed in class, and then I did another version of this for the exploding enemy. So I'll cover that. So for the exploding enemy, we're going to, when the enemy is killed, we are going to get the game mode and count the enemy as killed. So this will just, in the game mode, will kill the enemy, which adds to the score and takes away from the enemy's remaining. And then along with that, it will let me fix this real quick. Um, just do default. All right, let's try that one more time. Okay, so kill the enemy, and then afterwards it calls this one game function and checks to see if the enemies remaining are less than or equal to zero, and if so, it jumps to this game one. And that's it for this on exploding health component. And actually, so one thing I can show with this on exploding is that it is creating this event on killed for the interface right here for this BPI killable. So this would be a good example for the death component to health component. So whenever their health gets to zero, it calls this interface like we was talking about a second ago. And I actually set up this interface function here using this on killed. And we just go right click and like hit implement, and this pops up here on the event graph. And so anytime I try to use this interface, it's going to initially just be this event on killed node. And then I can set it up to be custom for each actor or whatever is going to be able to die. So any type of exploding enemy, this is what they're going to have. I could do this again I'll give an example with the player killed. So when the player's killed, it's again implementing this interface and then casting to the game mode and running this on player killed from the game mode. So we can look at that real quick. Event on player killed, lose life, and that just takes the lives that are being tracked by the game manager, which is, I'll cover that in a second. And then it takes one away and resets the level. So that is it for, let's look, that's it for components, health component, and death. Kind of covered load levels in the middle of that because we on player killed, lose life, game over. So when the game's over, if they have zero lives and then they die, we're gonna load this game over level, and all we need is this level name. And then we're going to reset the game manager to have 3 lives. And that should be good for level load. Let's hop onto game mode and singleton pattern. So we'll close all these out. I'll leave the game mode open, and let's also open the game instance right here. Okay, so first, starting with the game mode, this is like think of it as capture the flag, free for all. It's gonna track certain attributes and aspects of the game that are gonna be used for one instance of a game. So for here, this game mode is going to get hold of the game instance, set it as a game manager, and then set this delay. You do a delay and then start the game. And the start game function for this game mode will be to get all the spawner class that spawn the floating boxes, and then spawn a wave of enemies based off of this enemy count. Then the game mode handles what happens when a player dies and what happens when an enemy dies, and then win conditions. So really, the game mode's going to handle how scores are calculated, how lives are tracked, and what are the win and lose conditions. Now, the game instance, there's not a whole lot here, but this is information that is going to be tracked across the entirety of the game. So this is a singleton, which means there can only be one. So there's only going to ever be this one game instance, and it's going to live as long as the game is running. So we'll have lives and score. So no matter if we reload a level, if we go to a new level, this lives and score are going to both be consistent across it. And the only time they change is if we reset them or completely quit out of the game for this game at the very least. Now that leaves it for game mode. I can real quick cover lives and score. We've kind of gone over that already. But okay, so the lives are kept track of here in the game instance. We start out with 3 lives. The score, it's also kept track here. It starts at 0. And then when a player's health reaches 0, we take away from the lives and we reset the blockout level, which is just the base level that the game starts in. Then for score, we update the score in the kill enemy function. So we take this anytime an enemy dies, we'll take this game manager and then its score, and we'll add to it based off of the enemy point count, which is actually passed into this on enemy killed. And that is called in the killable interface for enemy's death component. So in this on exploding enemy killed component, it sets all that up and calls this. And then along with that, again, it checks if all the enemies are gone or if the game needs to keep going after that. Okay, and we can move on to functions and custom events. So there's lots of examples for this. One I wanted to cover was, let me see if this. Okay, so I'll cover a custom event here in this VP spawner. So I set up this spawn wave of enemies, and what it'll do is it'll take the number of enemies, which is passed into this custom event, and it will loop through, create a for loop that'll run through the number of enemies, and it'll spawn that many actors. And then it'll delay for a random amount from 300 to 400. And actually, I just realized I set that to 0. So let's get rid of that. I don't remember why I had that multiplication there, but we will remove it. And actually, okay, and it calls this BP, it calls the spawn actor a custom event, which I created here. And this custom event will spawn this actor type to spawn, which is set in the game. So let's go to the spawner right here. So for this spawner, I have it spawning, or actually that's a spawn location. What did I do with the spawner? Okay, so, okay, here's the spawner. So this spawner is bringing in the BP floating boxes. So whenever after that initial delay, it will spawn in these floating boxes. And actually, I think I want to completely remove this because I had this delayed for something else before, and it doesn't really seem to matter all that much right now. So we'll keep that out and then remove that now actually too. All right. And then functions. So there's a lot of places we can cover functions, but one of the places I used them a lot this time around was in this custom game mode. So we'll start with killing me. So I've already gone into this a few times, but this function just allows the game mode to add to the score to the game manager and take away from the remaining enemies. It takes in a point parameter and actually doesn't return out to it doesn't return out anything. Then this one game function checks the enemies remaining and then opens a new level if it needs to. Another place that I use functions quite a bit was in the HUD. So a few places. So this update lives, which updates the UI of the lives, and it just takes the number of lives in the game instance, converts them to an integer, and then sets them as the text here. And then another place we can look at real quick is this get score text value. So this is actually binded. So that way I don't have to fetch this consistently. It's actually going and doing this for me. So instead of, whereas this update lives function is called on um, event construct. So whenever the game starts or level starts and this UI is created and put on the screen, this update lives function is called. But the get score value, since the score consistently changes every time an enemy dies, actually just binded this to the score in the game instance. So anytime the score changes, it's going to call this function, and then it's going to get return the value as a string, or yeah, as text, and that goes right here. And this UI is not just automatically put on the screen. So in our first person character, I want to say this is where it's at. So in the first person character on begin play, we create the HUD widget, set it as the player HUD, and then add it to the viewport. And that's pretty much it for UI in this one. Next time around, I'll probably add a health bar and a few other things. So start game and game over. We're gonna jump over to the, let's save everything real quick. And then we'll jump over to the title screen. So this title screen level is empty because all we're doing in this level is opening up this title screen UI, and it just has this box killer text and then this start button. So when they hit this, when you hit the start button, it fires this on-click event, which just opens this blockout level. And then and that's the starting of the game, and then game over / end game will open up either this game one level or game over screen. So I'm not going to open up the level itself, but I'll just open up the UI. So again, it has these just simple text, two buttons. Play again opens up the blockout level if the player starts from over, and the menu takes them back to the title screen. And the game one is fairly similar. It just either takes you back to the menu or starts the blockout again. Anything else? So we have, only thing left is a standalone build. Go over that in just a second. So I wanted to cover the exceeds minimum requirements. So again, I built out that waves where the enemies are spawned into the game. And then along with that, I took the built-in first person rifle or first-person rifle and made a shotgun, and then took the weapon component and made a shotgun component. So there's slight differences. The shotgun pickup, the only difference between it and the rifle pickup is here. We're using a different material. And then other than that, it's pretty much the same. I could have easily just built out a gun pickup and just had the material for this as a parameter or something I could have changed, but didn't do that this time around. Maybe do that in the future. And then for this weapon shotgun component, I added in this code and this code. So what I did was instead of the shoot action, when it triggers, it's only spawning the projectile one time. It's actually looping through based off of the number of projectiles, spawning those in, and then it's getting the forward vector from the camera, which is like the vector of the camera, the way the camera's facing, and it's getting a random spray angle in that direction, base from 0 to the max of 5. So it's going to have a spray like cone type of angle that's going to be random based off of the camera's rotation. It's forward vector and the spread max, and then I set that spray angle rotator as this make transform rotation and pass that into this spawn actor. And that is it for all of that. Let's see if the build is finished. I started at the beginning of this, so let's see if it's working as expected. Build GPE104. So it actually didn't work. Let me pause this and I'll start it back up once the build's finished. After painstaking 10 to 15 minutes of debugging, I figured out there was an issue with one of my levels I was trying to build. But everything's finished up. Here's the build game. Let's go through it real quick. So here's the start screen. There's start the game, quit the game. Come back here in a second. So you just start here, 3 lives, and you can pick up either gun. I don't have it where you can use both right now, because it's doesn't unequip the other one. So after 2 seconds, the boxes all start falling, and then they come for you. And so you go through and kill all the boxes. And try to survive. There's clear win conditions of once every box is dead, it'll open up the game win level. And the lose conditions if you run out of health. Sorry for the really choppy movement. I'm trying to play this with one hand and hold my sleeping baby in the other hand. So this is a little difficult, but I just wanted to get this finished. So we are, I think there's 1 or 2 guys left. Also, I forgot to mention these boxes are using the health component that the player's using as well. So like that shows you right there, like I didn't have to build out specific modularity for the boxes to use the health component instead of the along with the player. All I had to do was build up that different death component that implemented that interface. So we're gonna play again real quick, and I want to show the shotgun. It's a little buggy because right now if it hits a box and it kills it, it actually calls the death as many times as it hits it. So like it's like it treats it like it killed it 10 times instead of just treating it like it killed it once. But that's just like a small thing I have to fix next time. But I do like that I was able to get this and have like a good spray, even though it shoots really far. And I'll just real quick show the death condition since we got the game over or the game won a few times. So I think if I get hit 4 times, I die. 3, or and then it restarts me. Haven't had it reset the score yet. I haven't decided if I want them to start from 0 or if I want like each time you uh, die to assist the score. But I just want to get that game over screen and run to this box real quick. It's gonna be 1 or 2 in here. There's actually not a single one in this room. Here we go. And last life. I'll just show that weird. So like it's like both of the guns are there at once, and when I shoot, it actually does both fire conditions since they're using the shotgun and the rifle component. So like this would be a cool version of the component pattern because this is like a rifle shotgun, even though it's like two completely separate weapons. It's using both fire components at the same time. And that's it. So I died, brings me to this died screen. I can play again, like on the win screen, or I can go back to the menu and then quit. And that is my project for the Life and Death Online Project 2, GPE 104. Thank you very much.